Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful souls. Well, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and today we are diving into a truly enriching topic. It's about living life abundantly and embracing every moment with prosperity and joy. In this season, we are exploring deep themes of personal growth, and I couldn't be more excited to share this journey with you. Well, today I am so thrilled to be joined by a very special guest. That's Dr. Michelle Maidenberg. And Dr. Maidenberg is not only a respected therapist, but she's also a passionate advocate on mental health. With her book, Through My Eyes, and her TED speaker, as well as an author whose insight has empowered many to transform their lives. But before we talk with Michelle, let's take a quick break. And then we come back and then we're going to talk more deeply into this topic, all right? It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back. What are some common barriers that prevent people from expressing? Hey, it's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here from the Season of Self-Love podcast.
Yeah, I would say remorse. So shame and guilt is a very dividing emotional.
And these are one of the many amazing conversations that we have every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Season of Self-Love podcast with myself, Nyomi Banks, as well as our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington of Washington Wellness Institute. Come by.
The reality of our relationships with people.
Come by.
And a lot of times we're afraid of how people look at us. And so that compassion can't enter.
You can hit us on the website, the Season of Self-Love podcast.com.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
All right, well, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and today we are talking about living life abundantly and embracing every moment with prosperity and joy. And again, today we are joined by Dr. Michelle Maidenberg. Dr. Maidenberg, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I so appreciate it.
Thank you. I cannot wait till we truly get to topic and we're talking about it. Because the one thing is that I've learned throughout my journey is about not searching for happiness, but embracing the joy in life. So we're gonna talk about that when we get more deeper into the conversation.
I'm excited. I'm super excited.
Yeah. So my listeners know before we get into the topic at hand, we always take a moment to just pause and center ourselves for a nice guided meditation. So right now, my listeners, if you can close your eyes, get a nice comfortable position. I want you to inhale deeply through your nose, filling your lungs with air. I want you to hold on for a brief moment. Now exhale slowly and completely, releasing any tension or stress. I want you to feel your body relaxing with each breath. Now, as you continue to breathe at your own pace, I want you to bring awareness to the present moment and feel the weight of your body grounding you to the earth. I want you to notice any sensation within your body without judgment, just simply observing. drawing in peace and clarity. And I want you to exhale any distractions or worries that may be clouding your mind. With each breath, create space for insights and intuition to flow freely. Now envision a bright light at the center of your being, radiating warmth and wisdom. And with each inhale, allow this light to expand and illuminate your mind and spirit, and feel a sense of calm and serenity in you. Take one final deep breath in, embracing this moment of stillness and interconnection, and exhale slowly, carrying this sense of presence and openness with you as you move forward. So when you are ready, gently open your eyes and carry this feeling of mindfulness throughout your day. You are grounded, you are centered, and open to the insights that await. All right, thank you for joining this moment with me right now, and as well as my listeners. If you're new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, it's something that we do every day, Monday through Friday, to help ground and center ourselves before we get into the topic at hand. And I am truly excited for this conversation. Are you?
Oh, yes, totally. I'm super excited.
All right, Michelle. So your work, you often discuss the concept of emotional avoidance. Can you explain how this impacts the ability to live abundantly?
Yes, I love that question. And it's such a hot topic right now, right? Because gosh, we avoid so much, especially, that's where we get ourselves in these bad habits because
Yeah.
we're avoiding any kind of negative emotion that comes up. We are in perpetual state of emotional avoidance. And I did a TED talk on that, talking about that. And it makes sense because of the way our mind is wired. We have to understand our neurocognition. It's really important to understand the physiology of our brain. And the way the brain is wired is to avoid discomfort and danger. Now, when I say danger, right, I'm putting that in air quotes because it's perceived danger. It doesn't mean that it's actually dangerous. What our brain perceives as dangerous and what's actually dangerous can be two different things. It could be based on experiences. It could be based on fears. It could be based on just a whole host of different things. And it puts us in a state where we're perpetually denying, avoiding, distracting from, our negative emotions. And what are negative emotions? It could be disappointment, sadness, fear, anger, etc. We would rather be feeling happiness and joy and contentment. Of course, that feels better. It feels better in our bodies. It feels better in our minds. It puts us in a better mood. But that actually isn't productive because then we beat ourselves up. We get angry at ourselves. We get frustrated with ourselves that we're having these negative emotions. But guess what? If you're human, that's appropriate. And we need to have those negative emotions. There's such benefits we get out of having negative emotions. But if you go to the internet even, right, there's this like happiness trap or this like toxic positivity, you need to be 10 ways to be happy, 1,000 ways to be happy. If you're not happy, there's something wrong with you and you need to like practice these affirmations to make yourself happy. We can't talk ourselves into things. It just doesn't work that way. And how many times when somebody says to you or you say to yourself, oh, I can't get this thought in my mind or this is so distressing. What do people say? Get that thought out of your mind.
Yeah.
Like, good luck. When we say that, first of all, we can't get it out of our mind because there's a reason why we're having that thought to begin with.
Right.
Second is then we get angry at ourselves and frustrated with ourselves why we can't get out of our mind because we're expected to.
Yeah.
So that means we should be able to. So it becomes this perpetual state of, again, frustration, berating ourselves, self-hatred, and it goes on and on. I mean, it's pretty, and again, it shows up in people of all different ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's chronic. It's really chronic.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: going through that, when you have those negative thoughts, when I say, subconsciously we have those things that trigger us and pop up. And what I usually tell my listeners is that when I get those things right there, I respect what that moment is. because in that moment, whatever that is, there is something that I'm supposed to learn from that. You know what I'm saying? To grab from that to where I apply it. And I guess even when you were speaking about the different affirmations and things of that sort, I think what people don't understand is that with those affirmations those are a bit of a tool that when that trigger does come up, then you say this, or you say this to yourself so you can remind yourself of who you are. And you're absolutely right. When you first said it about the toxic happiness, I was like, I said, but no, I get what she's saying. I do. I get, like, if you're not happy, then something's wrong with you.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Instead of acknowledging and respecting what you feel in that moment, but now, okay, I feel this way. Now, how can I not feel this way in 10 minutes or an hour or when it shows up again?
Yeah. And I think what you're speaking to when you talk about the affirmations, yes, it is to remind you to tap into your wise mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Because what happens is that part of your mind, again, we're very multidimensional. We're not unidimensional as people. Okay. And we have different parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. We could be fully functioning, high functioning in some ways and not so much in other ways. And you're smiling, but like we can all relate to that.
Yes.
Right? I mean, completely.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because, people see me just because I do so much. And, I'm a relatively successful person. I have I think pretty, good confidence and all of that, but when they see me, I don't know, disorganized or late or whatever the case is, they kind of laugh and they're like, oh, like people say this to me. They're like, oh my God, I'm so glad to know that you're human. And I laugh. I'm like, what do you think? Like, do you think I'm a perfect person? Like, come on. I have flaws just like everybody else does, and I laugh. I laugh. And it's so funny, the perception that they have of me. And then also based on the perception, then how do they behave towards me? Or what are their judgments about me? I mean, again, it's like this full spectrum. And I know that I engender that, in certain ways. So I'm very cognizant of that in my interpersonal relationships. That doesn't mean that I can't be my authentic self or have to dumb myself down, but I do need to be conscious of what I put out there in the world so that I could connect to other people, right? Like that we have to understand ourselves. So again, we have to understand that it's okay to have different parts. It's okay to be multidimensional. It's okay to have these negative emotions and positive emotions. It's okay to falter at times because that could be our most valuable life lessons.
Yeah.
Right. It's also okay to have the negative emotions because that could teach us what's truly important to us and where our values lie. Yeah. Everything that happens is important to understand. Yeah. Okay. So we don't want to dismiss any parts of ourselves. And you talked about our authentic self.
Yeah.
Our authentic self is like what in Jungian kind of therapy, we call like a golden shadow. We all have golden shadows. It unfortunately gets masked, and there are barriers that inhibit it from presenting itself. Now, if you look at a child, okay, they're curious and wondrous and like fun and playful. Like they'll get in the mud and they will have a ball. They'll like throw the mud at themselves and kind of stomp in it. Who inhibits that? Who inhibits the creativity? We do. I don't want you to step in the mud because you're going to get dirty and then have to wash your clothes and right? Yeah. But the kid's not thinking that. The kid's like, oh my God, this is like so fun. It feels like Play-Doh, whatever. Yeah. And other things which are more pronounced, like racism and horrible things that happen in this world. No, kids are not born that way. I'm very sorry. We teach them to be that way.
Yes.
Okay? Kids have like a tabula rasa. They're open. Yeah. They're open. The world, society, we engender these things in people. Yeah. And we have to admit that to ourselves. Yeah. We have to face ourselves. And most people don't want to face themselves. Most people want to live, not being in the present moment, not being connected to themselves, being in denial of who they are. And I'm talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. No,
yeah. Because I know the parts of myself.
Mhm.
And by the way, it's not ugly, it's underdeveloped. And that's a different way of looking at it too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because I have parts of myself that are underdeveloped for whatever reason they didn't mature the way they needed to. And I understand why that is because I've done a lot of work on myself.
Right.
And I forgive myself for that. And I also have a lot of self compassion and understand that part doesn't need to be berated. That part needs to be nurtured. That's what's going to, where the healing is going to come from. That's
Exactly.
what's going to influence me in a positive way and also help me to increase my confidence and connect to myself in a positive, loving way. Not when I'm beating myself up. No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, um, you know, as you said before, and I'm trying to remember, I had a guest on not too long ago, and we spoke about as babies when we are in the womb and we come out, and as you said, we're so full of life and we're so curious and we want to touch and everything.
Yeah.
And in that moment when we want to touch something, or then there is society, parents, or that kind of form our or who we are. Self-love for me, especially when creating it, I wanted to tap in to find out who I was without any of those influences, my parents, my ex-husband, you know what I'm saying, fans, all of that. I wanted to, that's why I created this, so we can kind of peel the layers from our onion of us and really get down into the core of us. And I love what you're talking right now, because it's exactly right on point of what we've been talking through for the first 2 seasons. But now I want you to talk more about how you develop this method called ACE, acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. And how can our listeners use those principles or apply these principles to enhancing their personal growth?
Thank you. So yeah, I came up with this method. So the method helps with any kind of stuckness, literally.
Mhm.
Yeah, it helps for people who have difficulty in relationships, or people who have procrastination, people who, even again, impulsive behaviors like overeating and, substances, and I could go on and on.
Mhm.
Because we're getting what it helps you with is to actually tap into your authentic self. What I was talking about before,
Yeah.
which we're so remiss, because of, like, again, how we're impacted. So what ACE stands for, it's ACE Your Life, and it stands for acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. Now, what I do in the book, which is kind of my method, is I start out by teaching people about the neurophysiology. We need to understand how our brain is wired.
Mhm.
Okay, that is the most important thing off the bat. And again, you may say to me, like, oh, that sounds like very, like academic. And so I don't express it in an academic way. I express it in a practical way that you'll understand. And I do back up everything with research because that's important to me, so it's geared towards the person who's that's important for,
Mhm.
and it's geared towards people who just want the information as well. Um, so I started with that. Then I talk about our values.
Mhm.
So everything is couched in our values. It is a guide to our actions. Okay. And people argue with me and they tell me, I know what my values are. And I could tell you that most people don't.
Mhm.
You think you know what your values are. And when I'm talking about values, I'm not talking about general values. I'm talking about your core
Values.
values. And I break it down to 9 to 11 values.
Mhm.
Okay. So we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of values really defined definitively towards a 9 to 11. And that's a difficult process, I have to tell you.
Mhm.
And then again, I help a person, to express and explain, why it's important, and, how to go about, kind of finding your values. And then I break it into different parts: the acceptance, compassion, empowerment. The first parts of those are the barriers. We need to understand what gets in the way.
Yeah.
Because we sometimes we literally beat ourselves up, and we could kind of bang our head up against the wall because it's so frustrating, because we're trying to do something and we can't get it right.
Mhm.
I had this woman this week, I have to tell you, it broke my heart. This is like high functioning. We're talking about like 20-year-old that's in an Ivy League college.
Mm.
Okay. and she's beautiful, but she can't seem to get like her eating under control. And again, if you look at her, okay, if you observe her, you would never know because she looks like a very average, typical kid, but she's struggling. And her mom keeps texting me that she's crying and she's like distressed because she's so highly functional in so many ways. But in this area, she completely feels defeated and out of control. And it's making her feel weak. It's making her feel ineffective. It is completely damaging her self-confidence. And we talk, and I'm helping her with this. So like that's an example of somebody I would help. People struggle. We all struggle because we all have imperfections.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we have to understand. We have to be able to see that and work through it. So the acceptance is not about, oh, I'm accepting this about myself and I'm accepting mediocrity and this is the way I am and I have to love myself no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about noticing who you are, actually noticing. Compassion, we never learn to be self-compassionate. We learn to be compassionate towards others. All the messages that we're taught is about to be compassionate towards others. There is no rubric that we're taught in school, in our families of origin, and otherwise about how to be self-compassionate. And I have to tell you, when people are up front and personal with themselves, they tell me, I see it. They are so uncomfortable. I think I just shared with you, I was on another podcast right before this, and the podcaster was tearful. But one thing that I did notice, I didn't say it because whatever, but I could see that he felt so uncomfortable that he was tearful.
Mm-hmm. So he wasn't expecting his moment right there in his feelings.
No, he was vulnerable. He was, because I said to him, I'm like, okay, hit me with an issue and you'll see how I do my stuff. And I said, you can even use a personal, something personal, because, it's a little bit more like intense when you do something personal. So he did bring up something personal, but he didn't expect to react the way he did. And he didn't expect that it affected him the way it did, because it was like many years ago. And as soon as he was talking about it and I kind of expressed what I did, it tapped into some feelings that he maybe kind of didn't realize he had, or maybe was denying or avoiding because it was so painful. And I could tell that there was a little bit of shame attached to him emoting, and he probably didn't expect it to, and he probably untapped, very deep feelings as well. So I do have to say that. But there was a piece of like, oh gosh, I'm so vulnerable right now. I could tell. I didn't want to make him feel uncomfortable, obviously, so I didn't say anything. But there was a part of me that literally wanted to go and like go over and hug him and say, it's okay, I got you. There really was. So we're afraid to show our humanness. That's the point I'm making. We're afraid to show our humanness. And even when I have these conversations with people about communication and I say, there's a difference between communicating and deeper, more relational communicating. And I'll sometimes like role play with them, or I'll give them the words and they're like, I can't say that. And I was like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And we kind of like play it out and they're like, gosh, that would be so uncomfortable. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Let's try that on for size, So anyway, I teach skills on to be more self-compassionate, and then empowerment. The what I find, and again, there's barriers, and then also how to integrate the skills. And then at the end of each chapter, I actually have a QR code for a guided meditation, because I record guided meditations every Thursday morning on my YouTube channel, just like you do. So that's exciting. So people can change habits, but they have a hard time sustaining and maintaining habits and maintaining behavior. That's where I come in. Okay? Because it is very difficult if you don't have groundedness and you don't have a shell and a foundation to your confidence.
Yeah.
You're going to slip. You're going to spiral. And I actually I make a differentiation between a slip and a fall. It's okay to slip, and we slip all the time, but we don't want to fall.
Right.
There's a difference between not maintaining behavior for like 2 weeks and then not maintaining behavior for 2 months. Yeah. So I make that distinction, and I talk about what gets us into that kind of spiraling space. So, and that, like I said, it could be applied to really anything that we, we're stuck with.
Yeah. It's funny that you said it. I was just talking with this to my husband the other day, right? So let me tell you. So I go through, well, right now I am officially going through premenopause. This has probably been the heaviest ever that I've ever been, So I've been working out very hard for the past few months, and I've been eating right. And so on the days that I don't eat right, in beginning going in, I knew that I'm going to use these. These are gifts for me for being able to eat healthy throughout this time. So this is what happens. Okay, so I ate today bad. Man, am I gonna be able to get back on? Okay, well let me.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
The word bad.
Mm-hmm.
If you're eating bad, you're bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not empowering language. That's very disempowering. So I had to stop you there, because that in and of itself is negatively impacting your confidence.
Well, there you go.
That's just off the bat.
Yeah, well, there you go. And I received that, because that's probably exactly why the next day I ate something that was unhealthy for me. Exactly. So yeah. And this is why it's so funny, because I talk about this amazing book that I read all the time called The 4 Agreements.
Yes.
The very first rule is use your words impeccably. And the thing is that I remember the very first time that I read that book, and I remember how it made me feel, not only as a child receiving the words from my parents and other people, but also as a parent giving those words out to my children. And so in that moment, I remember, okay, I have to change my language, because my words are very powerful. But you're right. And I'm glad that you stopped me. I just said, well, hold on. First of all, you're saying that is not even it.
Well, because I want you to think about it as a boulder. This is what I say. There's a boulder. And every time, okay, you use disempowered language, or you berate yourself, or whatever, each single time, literally, it's as if you're taking a gavel and you're slowly chipping away at your confidence. Literally. That's the way I want you to think about it.
Yeah.
Now, can I ask you something? If you feel deflated and defeated, are you going to exhibit positive behaviors? No, because you don't have a feeling of self-compassion or self-efficacy. Like you can actually carry out what you're set out to carry out.
Yeah.
It's so self-defeating. It is so self-defeating. So every single thing you put into yourself is what you're going to get out of yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hit me with the issue, because I will help you with this. So go ahead.
Just that alone already helped me. And I'm like, she is so right. And it's funny, because when you know these things, you as a therapist, I'm as a life coach. These are things that I know that I've said to clients.
No, I do it too.
Yes, but for some reason, and I think because when we speak these words, sometimes they're so second nature that they fall out of our tongue or fall out of our mouths that we don't really realize it. But I'm glad that you caught that for me, because sometimes I had blinders on, because I'm trying to go through the motion to make sure that I'm doing what I'm saying I'm doing, and not being procrastinating or these other things. Because as you said, I am very high functioning. As I say, I am a recovering perfectionist.
Yes. Hello.
Right. So when I can just keep moving and going. But when you said, wait, no, stop right there. Because when you said the word bad, that makes you like you're a bad person. And it kind of like just hit me in my chest, like, she is so right.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
No, and I have to say that just hearing you say that, I felt sad. I was like, wow, she's saying herself is bad. Because she's eating something that's not nutritionally valuable in this moment. Like, no, that doesn't make you bad.
Yeah.
No, that's called being a human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
So go ahead. So let's play this out. So one day kind of comes, you maybe slip a little bit, right? And then the next day comes and you slip a little bit more. Is that what you're saying?
A little bit more, yeah. And then the next day, then I'm slipping and sliding.
Okay. Now, go ahead. So now I'm going to stop you again. I'm going to stop you again, and I'm going to ask you, right, from day to day, okay, what thoughts were going through your mind, right? Because the first day that it happened, were you feeling negatively towards yourself and towards your behavior?
No, it was more, honestly, it was more for a celebration, like a celebratory for myself.
You mindfully decided to eat what you were eating.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes.
That second day.
The second day, I think it was, no, the second day, I was just tired, and that was the most convenient thing for me to eat, that I didn't eat all of it the day before. So I'm going to eat it today so I won't waste money.
Okay, good. So the thought, if I don't eat this, I'm going to waste money, right? Then how do you feel about yourself if you think you're going to waste money? What does that say? What does that say about you?
Well, one is the fear of spending, that I'm not going to have. When I tell you, yes, but I'm with you here. I'm receiving all of this.
Yeah.
I'm receiving all of this right now. So that, like, I'm knowing what that is, especially now that you reminded me, it's like, okay, this is what this. Cause you helping me right now, girl. You know,
that's the point. Yeah.
You're truly helping me right now, because I'm used to speaking to other people, but not doesn't speak into me like that to tell me, okay, hold on. This, are you listening to what you're saying? Are you listening? So what are you, even though I can say this, I can write it, I can do an ebook, I can do all of those things and use these things most of the time. But when it's most needed, this is when I need, this is when I'm not paying attention, that this is when is work. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So you had that thought. Okay.
Yeah.
And what you did is you dismissed it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because your impulses took over and you said, I want it. I want it. I want it. Right. So you denied that thought.
Yeah.
You didn't sit in the distress of the thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you were to sit in the distress in that moment, okay, and you were to say to yourself, gosh, I'm having the thought that if I don't eat this, that I am a spendthrift and I waste money and I spend money without thinking thoughtfully. And that makes me a blank, blank, blank. Right? And when I think that way, when I feel that way about myself, it makes me feel really sad.
Yeah.
And in these moments of distress, right, when I'm sitting here and fighting off these urges, it is really challenging for me. And sometimes it makes me feel like I'm weak. Sometimes it makes me feel scared that I'm never going to get this right. Sometimes I feel scared that, like, no matter what I do, that I'm not going to change.
Right.
And right now, what I need to do that leans into being my best self, right, is to recognize these thoughts and feelings, right, respect them, and do what's in line with being my best self, and really connecting to being my best self. And that means that not putting this in my body, because that is wasteful too.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. Yes.
And I'm gonna sit with this urge, and I'm gonna feel into this urge, and I am going to feel the feelings and think the thoughts, right? And I'm gonna make a mindful choice.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't take the time to do that, and then it leads to the third day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then here it comes again. Hi. Right? It's calling your name. Yeah. Okay. And the more practice we have of sitting with those difficult and challenging emotions, and the more practice we have at giving ourselves self-compassion, self-love in those
Yes.
stress, the better we become at it.
Yeah. Yeah. You are so right. Yeah, you are so right. You are so right. I have no problem with laying on the couch on this show. I have no problems because sometimes you need that. I remember talking to a guest about a month ago, and they were kind of doing the same thing that I was doing and you were doing. And I remember, telling my listeners, if it's something that I can't do and I can help, make sure that you reach out to them because we all got a different voice. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a 52-year-old Black woman who has lived life totally different than a whole lot of people. So when I'm coming from my experience and sharing, that's what I do for me, and hoping that my prayer is that you can resonate with that and able to take whatever that is and apply it to your life. But like Dr. Michelle right here, it's something that she speaks about and talk about, something that you can take from her life. I remember this show started off as a 1-month series on my podcast that I do every Thursday called Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast. And it was only a month show for 4 weeks. It was a nice little series and that's it. And I remember going into my meditation room and praying, probably like the 3rd week of that series. And I heard daily, for me to do this show daily. I'm like, okay, you know?
Yeah.
And as the months went on, I remember probably like December, I remember sitting at my altar and I was like, okay, I see where you want me at. But I need help. I need you to send me some people to help me. Then they sent me Dr. Will. Dr. Will came into my message me and, I kind of had to put my pride to the side, brought in, doing great. Then I took a break. We kind of took like a hiatus break. My daughters, they went on school. So I figured, let me use the summer to kind of come back and build. Now, as I'm building myself during the summer to come back for season 2, we came back with Healing Beyond Betrayal as a series. And in that, he was like, now it's time to open up for guests. I hadn't opened up for guests. It was just myself at times or my resident therapist, Dr. Will. So I hadn't opened up to guests. Alan from Podmatch hit me up in June. Never heard of this company at all. Went through the test, all of that stuff. And I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. I created my platform and like 50 people came in 2 days.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, is this it? Then I was nervous. Then I was nervous because I'm like, okay, now I'm in another community, in another room that I am no longer the smartest person or the one that has connects, but I asked to be in that room. I asked to be in this room where I can be amongst others that know more than me. Like what you just did with me. You said, stop, hold on. And I'm able to receive it from you because now it's like, okay, this is a part of we're a team. And so each one of us are players.
Yeah.
And that's what I look at every guest that come on this show. I thank you all so much because not only are you giving a voice to the season of self-love, but we giving it to the world in so many different aspects. So whoever watching this can go over to your site or go over to and find out exactly what you're talking about and be able to get something from there that I can't be able to get. So again, this is us building our community outside of another community. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's called paying it forward, right?
Yes. They're simpler like that. So this is my next question. So joy and prosperity, those are aspirations that a lot of us go through. It used to be happy. For me, it used to be happy. But I found that happy for me has been a temporary type of thing. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Happy is an emotion. Happiness is an emotion. It's not a state.
Yeah. So for me, joy, I have this right here. I love to do this. When I'm able to talk to somebody or talking to somebody to see and hear their stories on, man, that is where my joy is. That is where my heart becomes to, but I can keep going on and on. But what are some practical ways that our listeners that can cultivate these qualities in
Sure.
their daily lives? Yeah.
So it's interesting because I use two different words. I use satisfaction and contentment. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Joy is a little bit of, synonymous with happiness. And, when I talked before about kind of this happiness trap, happiness and joy and all of those lovely emotions, which feel so good in the moment, are emotions. We can't, the problem with it is then we're always chasing feeling that way. And we can't really chase emotions because emotions are fleeting. We could in the span of an hour, think about this, and it's so fascinating. First of all, we can't feel a happy, a negative and a positive emotion in the same time. Try to do it. You can't. It's not actually possible. Okay. So what we do is we'll gravitate towards, like I said, the more joyful, like you said, but it's an emotion. So in the span of an hour, I could have an interaction with you and I could go through 10 different emotions. You could say something positive to me and I could feel joyfulness. And then you could say something that I take as negative and I could feel anger or disappointment.
Yeah.
And on and on. They're fleeting. Emotions are fleeting. They're meant to be fleeting. Contentment, satisfaction, those types of words has to do with, again, whether you're living your best life, whether you're guiding your actions towards your values. That's what it is. Okay. I don't ever chase any kind of emotion. Okay. What I chase is taking action on behalf of my values. That I chase. And every single night before I go to bed, I go through my core values and I ask myself, how much did I lean in out of? And how much I lean in and how much I lean out of this value? Now, the reason why that's so much more empowering also is because we tend to beat ourselves up. Oh, I'm such a bad parent, right? Instead, what I say to myself is, you know what? I didn't quite lean into my parenting value as much as I wanted to today. Tomorrow, I'm going to focus on that. That's going to be my focus. And I'm going to do a better job at leaning into that particular value. So it doesn't make me a bad parent.
Right.
It means I had a negative parenting moment.
Yes.
That's a very different way of looking at yourself. Again, right? In terms of confidence. Okay. So it's all about the values. It's always about guiding yourself according to your values. And if I am doing that consistently, I could have true satisfaction and contentment. And I could say that about myself, which inevitably leads to feelings of happiness and joyfulness and all that good stuff, right? Yeah, of course. But I can't expect to stay in joyfulness or happiness.
Right.
It's not realistic. I mean, even, it's so funny. Like I think about when you go to an event, even let's say you have a 50th birthday party or whatever, right? Like you have 3 hours, 5 hours of these moments where you're with friends and family and it's everybody celebrating you, right? Like you leave and you hardly remember what the heck happened. You know what I mean? It's like poof, the moments just go by, like literally, that's the way life is.
Yeah.
It's seriously, and that's how happiness is. It's like 1 minute it's here and 1 minute it's gone. So that's why it is so critical in moments of joyfulness, okay, that we do take the time to stop, pause, be present, notice, maybe, connect with our gratitude or whatever it is, because those moments are going to be gone, literally gone. And we could see, I think a good example is when we see ourselves with our kids. I'm actually a year younger than you are, so we're the same age. But I look at my kids and I'm like, how did this happen? Excuse me? Like I have 4 kids, from age 24 to 16, and I'm like, how and what? And I think about you think about memories and things you did with them and whatever. And it's like, you can't even remember because it's like it all feels like it's, right? So it's so important. But the painful memories or the moments of adversity and the moments of challenge, those I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I remember those. I could tell you those like that.
Yeah.
Because our brain holds on to them because it's always trying to protect us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about cultivating like a life, and I'll call it contentment and satisfaction, it's really making sure that you're living your best life. Like I want to make sure that people I work with, if they died tomorrow, they would die with a smile on their face.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I love that. That's beautiful. I like that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I love that. But guess what? We talked and we talked and we at the end of the show. So
I think we both like to talk. That much.
yes, we do. So before are there any last minute words that you want to share with our listeners? Any
No,
thoughts or moments that you want to share before?
no. I just, like I think about what's going on in the world today, and I have to tell you, like, it's hard for me to sleep at night these days. There's just so much pain all over the place. It's like I feel like I can't get out of it. It's like I finally feel a little better, and then poof, something else happens. Yesterday there was a school shooting. Like it's like one thing after another. And like I said, life is so fleeting. Like we don't, we always say, oh, it's going to happen to the next person, and we have to appreciate every moment. Every moment is so precious.
Yes, it
I
is.
see so much tragedy, unfortunately, because of the work I do.
Mhm.
And I can't say that enough. And I don't say that as like, right? Like we all say, oh, I'm not saying that as a martyr. I'm saying that seriously, to really, really take note and notice and really take note and integrate and connect with your goodness, your basic goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Like
thank
be that kid, be that little kid, play in the freaking mud.
Go ahead in the mud.
I'm waiting for it to rain outside tomorrow. I'm in New York.
Well, thank you, Michelle. Your website, where can they pick up the book or
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. So my website is my name. It's Michelle with 2 L's, and Maidenberg is MaidenBerg. MichelleMaidenberg.com. My book is called Ace Your Life, Unleash Your Best Self and Live the Life You Want. And again, Ace Your Life. If you forget, you'll remember that. And again, I am so open. I'm always happy to be on again and to help. I really dedicate my life to helping others. Like that, to me, is what brings me contentment and satisfaction.
Yes.
And I'm just happy to be here and to talk and to just share.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would definitely be contacting you more because, like I said, I have another podcast. It's a live show. That was live.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that was live. And so I would love to possibly, we're kind of booked up until next year, but I got you on speed.
I'm going to be working on my 3rd book. So
that's right. I know. That's right. I love it. But again, Michelle, thank you. Thank you for your
welcome.
Thank you for putting me on the couch.
Anytime.
And just sharing your wisdom with us today. And to my listeners, look, I encourage you to check out Michelle's website for more resources and just embracing a fulfilling life. And don't forget to share your stories and your abundance of joy with us on social media. That's all of today's episode. So again, thank you for tuning in, and remember to subscribe, leave a review, and just join us next time here on the Season of Self-Love. Stay blessed and keep embracing your journey. Have a good one. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, Take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.